couple of years ago, while my boyfriend and I were walking home after a night with our friends, we were attacked by a few youngsters. Fortunately, we got away with minor injuries, but the official procedure drained us completely, physically, mentally as well, even though the authorities did everything they could to be gentle with us. On the day of the trial, we came to the court with these painful memories. Meeting our assaulters was frightening. Before the final verdict, the accused people had been given the chance to ask for our forgiveness. When they stood up one by one, telling they regretted what they had done to us, there was a moment of silence and all the eyes were on us. At that moment, I felt a lot of different emotions swirling inside me. On the one hand, I was angry with them because of all the pain they had caused. On the other hand, another aspect came to my mind, and I could almost visualize their early life. I was thinking about all the factors which led them here. I saw the child in them, whose mother couldn't be there the way they needed her, or they simply didn't even have a mother. The child who was abused and learned that human conflicts can only be solved with violence. The bullied school kid who couldn't find his place and became lonely in his own class. Or the teenager who went through his typical life crisis and found himself in a company which had a bad influence on his personal development. Suddenly, the whole incident made sense. As we were walking home, I couldn't think about anything but to sit down with these kids and talk them about that night. I would have told them that I understand why they did what they had done. And although there are consequences of their actions which they have to face, this could be a new beginning to start over. When these boys turned from assaulters into human beings in my eyes, it suddenly dawned on me. If we could see each other without prejudice, with empathy and open mind, not only those usual subjects of prejudice would benefit, but it would also hugely impact our personal relationships, our general peace of mind, the quality of social dialogues, and thus society at large. If you read the news, or when you meet people from marginalized groups, try leaving your prejudices behind. Knowing the context of how these people got to where they are makes you understand the whole situation in its complexity. So, what's in this for you? Such an open-minded attitude would simply reduce the stress in your daily life. This was the first event which aroused my interest in juvenile delinquency. I've been to several institutions. I've seen presentations based on juvenile offenders. I did my internship in a reform school. Since then, I started to work there as a special education teacher. And as a criminology student, I've been to a juvenile prison to prepare a convict to get released from the institution. Another girl from the university and I met the young inmate a couple of times, and we tried to outline his options after prison. For example, which school he should apply in order to be a chef. Although I'm in the very beginning of my career, but there is something I can tell. Most of the time, these boys didn't get the chance for a decent feedback from their parents or their teachers. That's why they cannot really define themselves and their role within the community. On another occasion, we were on our way to the juvenile prison, and I asked for direction from the man on the bus. It turned out that he had been working in prison, and he said, These boys couldn't be educated because they would always continue their criminal career. Once a lady picked us up and said, "Young girls like you shouldn't deal with evil kids because they cannot be saved." Previously, on an institution visit, even a member of the staff said, "They are dumb, I just can't put it any other way." It demonstrates well how differently people can approach this matter. They told us that we cannot help them. Well, that's the thing I can't accept. Have you ever heard about the Pygmalion Effect? Yeah, it's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy where expectations about a certain individual lead to actual results. For example, if you cannot believe that the other person is capable of change, they will be less likely to succeed. There was this experiment in the US where 20% of the pupils in a class were chosen, and their teachers were told that those students have bigger chance to develop than the others. Eventually, it turned out that the chosen pupils' development was more visible than the others. So, how is that possible? Since teachers usually tend to be more patient with talented pupils, they are able to give the best they can. Higher expectations lead to higher performance. Of course, it's not only the teacher's responsibility, it depends on the pupils as well. Based on this theory and my own experiences, I came to the conclusion that with a little change of attitude, one can contribute to a positive outcome. The students' beliefs about themselves define their future actions. If you would like to see people to change, you need to believe that they are capable of change. And what if you have a terrible experience which makes you distant and prejudiced towards those children? I think that's totally fine. You don't need to be the statue of acceptance, but you do need to try to understand how life made them the way they are now. And why is it good for you to think that way? Because if you get closer to people outside your own social status, you really get one step closer to have a more open mind, which leads to a better and healthier mental life for your own sake. You will be more patient with your coworkers, your partner, your kids, and you will have less tension in your life. You don't need to think about life-saving actions, rather to analyze your prejudice before you act. And if it isn't valid, then try to challenge yourself. It takes practice, and you need to give yourself some time. But this approach is a social goal which can affect your environment on every level. Thank you.